my honor to introduce Frank J. O'Terry of New Music Box at New Music USA to present the Paul Revere Awards for Graphic Excellence. This is Frank's fourth time presenting the awards, I believe. Frank, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but it is your fourth time presenting and second time being the adjudication coordinator, if that sounds right.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to know how many times I've done anything in this world because, you know, time is this weird continuum that kind of is self-recursive at this point. So,
well, we thank you. We thank you for being involved. I personally love having you involved. I think it's worth noting. I was thinking about this. The note I made is that Frank is a longtime friend to the MPA. In addition to working directly on the awards, I feel like you've been covering our annual meeting for at least 15 years because that's as long as I've been at the MPA. And I remember you being there the whole time.
Looking for an internet connection every time.
Every time. We usually got you one. So I think it's worth mentioning for anyone out there who doesn't know Frank, he is a tremendous advocate for composers and is a composer himself. His work has been performed all over the world, and it is truly an honor to work with you, and we are so lucky to have you, Frank.
Thank you.
And without further ado, anything you want to say, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen with the presentation.
Fantastic. Yeah, I mean, just one of the things I want to say, you know, we are hopefully going back to normal, whatever normal means, next year, but it has been, in addition to being a challenge to do this a different way, it's also been very exciting. I think we've learned a lot of stuff. We've been able to put together, well, you could start the slideshow while I say all this, so it doesn't need to have, yeah, there we go. I mean, one of the things that it's been a joy is, yeah, we haven't been able to collect and amass scores and distribute them the way this was done in the past, and to then, you know, have them all there, copies for each of our judges, and everything's been on PDF, which is a challenge because the judges have had to kind of think through, well, what would this be like as a physical object? But they're super smart people and have great imagination, so have been able to do this. But what I want to say is it's enabled us to have our judges are from all over the place. So we, you know, the pandemic has made us all further apart. So someone who lives around the corner feels like, you know, they're in another country, but it also means that people from all over the world are closer together. We just had a presentation from someone in Australia. I mean, yeah, it was like ridiculous o'clock where he was, but still, I mean, he was able to be with us. That's pretty awesome. So I do hope that when we go back to whatever normal is, that we'll retain some of these great things that have brought us closer together.
I agree with you, Frank. It's been so interesting to be able to do it remotely, but yeah, I think it's time.
Yeah, I mean, some kind of combined form. That way we can have the ability to get together. I mean, we still haven't figured out how to do virtual happy hours, so that, you know, that's always a highlight at the end of the MPA meeting, and that's really something we can't do on Zoom. So that, you know,
well, I think the coming year we're really going to figure out a few things.
Great. So we should announce these awards. What do you say? Well, we should tell everyone who the amazing judges have been for this. We've had two note-setting judges, Juping Song, who divides her time between Taiwan and Pennsylvania. In fact, I'm not even sure where I think she was in Pennsylvania when we met the other day. But the wonderful thing about the way the world is now is it doesn't matter. She could have met us in either place, which is really great. She's a tremendous pianist and also leads a really exciting ensemble in central Pennsylvania called the Naked Eye Ensemble, and just really great overall person, as is Ella Fredrickson, who I believe is on this in this meeting. I thought I saw a comment from her in the chat. Shout out to Ella, who I've known for years and years. A music librarian par excellence for the Florida Orchestra, but also, you know, she used to be the personal librarian for Marin Alsop and for the Cabrillo Music Festival, and that's how I got to know her, and a really wonderful person to hang out with corporeally as well as digitally. So and an amazing, I mean, it was just amazing hearing them bouncing comments off of each other and finding different things in different scores, and just, you know, being a fly on the wall. Well, maybe more than a fly on the wall for that process, but it was really great. So hats off to both of our note setting judges, and to our design judges, Emmanuel Wisdom and Nim Ben Reuven. Very curious photo of Nim Ben Reuven. I still haven't met either of these people corporeally, and judging from that photo, it would be very interesting to meet Nim corporeally. That would be very interesting. Anyway,
they're both absolutely wonderful people. So I hope, you know, when we get to have the party, we'll get to.
Yeah, absolutely. So without further ado, we should just plunge right in to announce all of the award-winning publications. Our first category, there are actually 9 different categories of note setting that are we ask for submissions in 9 different categories. This is something we're always rethinking, and it's interesting to see how these have evolved over time. But the first of these is choral music note setting, and the second prize for choral music note setting goes to Mother Song by Jocelyn Hagen, which is for unaccompanied chorus, SSAATTBB, and it is published by CF Peters Corporation, and Jocelyn was her own note setter for that. We have a number of works today where the composer doubles as note setter, and I have to say, it is hard to have both roles, to be your own proofreader of music. So hats off for that. And the production coordinator on that project was Owen Summers. The first prize goes to the Boar's Head Carol, which is a traditional English carol, and in an arrangement by Marshall Webb, published by Excelsior Music Publishing. And it is, the note setter for that is Mark Adler, and the production coordinator is Jamie Ray. Our next category, keyboard music note setting, and this can be piano music, most of it's piano music, but also organ music, harpsichord music, clavichord music. There was no clavichord music or virginal music this year, but you know, some years there can be. Any kind of keyboard, synthesizer. The third prize setting goes to an organ work, the Partita an Jesu meine Freude by David M. Cherwin, published by Morningstar Music Publishers. The note setter, Kevin Uppercue, and the production coordinator, Kristen Schade. The second prize goes to a fascinating collection of solo piano rarities by the 19th century French composer who actually lived into the 20th century, because he also wrote a film score, an early film score, but that's not in this book, Camille Saint-Saëns. These are never before published works that are edited from manuscripts by the pianist Jeffrey Burleson, and this is published by Carl Fisher Music. The note setter was Zachary Fick Cambria, and the production coordinator, Lauren Taylor. And finally, the first prize in this category, keyboard music note setting, also piano music. And this is Talk About a Labor of Love, the piano studies of Charles Ives, the great American composer, but perhaps not the greatest calligrapher. His manuscripts are a real challenge for scholars and engravers alike. There are many debates about these works, and it's taken years, decades after his death, to have definitive editions of what were the actual intentions of these pieces. So this is a collection of the piano studies, the shorter works for piano, volume 2, published by Peer Music Classical. The note setter is Marina Voishkin, and the production coordinator, Karen Heyman. Moving on to the next category, guitar music note setting. I want to point out to everybody that this year we had only 2 submissions in this particular category, but both were amazing, and we gave both of them awards. but it was, some of the other categories were extremely competitive. The second prize in this category goes to a guitar anthology of all of Steve Vai's guitar solos. Unbelievable encyclopedic collection that not only has transcriptions of every single thing he has ever recorded, both in music notation, it's also in tablature, so you can finger it exactly the way he fingered it. And the note setter for that is Jordan Baker, production coordinator Jeff Schoenfield, and that's published by Hal Leonard. And the first prize winner goes to American Composers Alliance. I believe this is the first time they've won an award in the Paul Revere Awards, but they've been a venerable organization since 1937, founded by Aaron Copland back in 1937. This extraordinary collection, Nights Transfigured, is a collection of 15 different recent solo guitar pieces, short guitar pieces. There were various note setters on it, so we can't give them all credit. Each composer had their own note setter. Some of them were their own note setters. This is music of the new Lullaby Project Volume 1. Very eager to see what subsequent volumes are. And the production coordinator for that is Gina Genova. Next category, piano vocal note setting. And this encompasses everything from vocal score, piano reductions of full-length musical theater and operatic works, to song cycles. It's a very large category. There were many more submissions in this category, and we are giving 2 prizes this year. The second prize, again, to Pure Music Classical, for 6 duets for mixed voices and piano, music of Morton Lauridsen. And the note setter for these was Mark Brooks, and the production coordinator, again, Karen Heyman, Pure Music Classical. And the first prize goes to Boozy and Hawks for its collection of opera choruses, Volume 1 of John Adams, featuring choruses from El Nino and the Gospel According to the Other Mary. Very interesting. Both works I think of as oratorios, but they can be staged as well, so we can call them operas. The note setter for that, Maggie Heskin, who is also the production coordinator. Full score note setting. This is another very competitive realm, and this is for full orchestral works. And I have to say, having just written an orchestra piece over this last year, note setting a piece like that, even a short piece, is a complete intense job. And one of the awards we're going to be giving is for work where the composer did his own note setting for it, and that's hats off, because it is a job. The first of the prizes, we can move to the next slide, goes to that very composer, Roberto Sierra, for his Sinfonia number 6, 6th Symphony. This is published by Subito Music Corporation. As I said, Roberto Sierra was his own note setter, and this is for a full symphony, folks. This is not a short concert opener. This is a long piece. And the production coordinator, David Murray. That's third prize. Second prize goes to Carl Fisher Music. Again, another prize for Carl Fisher for From the Black Belt, 7 little pieces for chamber orchestra by the great African-American composer William Grant Still. Note setter Lauren Taylor, production coordinator also Lauren Taylor. And first prize goes to Schott Music Corporation, European American Music, for Again by Alvin Singleton, who is celebrating his 80th year with us this year. There are lots of celebrations of his music that have been happening, and this is another celebration to add. This great work for chamber orchestra, winning first prize in the full score note setting category of the Paul Revere Awards. The note setter, Lenka Hradikova, I hope I'm saying that right, and production coordinator, Scott Walschlager. And now for solos with accompaniment note setting. This is for any piano plus 1 piece, so like a violin and piano duo, but it could also go for a violin and harp duo, let's say, or a flute and harp duo. It is, once again, a very competitive category in these awards. And we're giving 2 prizes in this category this year. And the second prize goes to Theodore Presser Company for the 7 Chakras by Daniel Dorff for B-flat tenor saxophone and piano. The note setter in that was Daniel Carnell and the production coordinator, Daniel Dorff. And I have to say, looking at the score, I was really impressed. Often when you see a score and a part, you'll have the, like in a tenor sax and piano piece, the tenor saxophone will maybe have some cues from the piano and nothing else. And then the piano has the tenor saxophone part. But for this score, both players get the other person's part, but the piano's smaller staves. And so the saxophone can always know what the piano is doing. I think that's a really good way to do it, especially when you're navigating new music and things that you're not familiar with. It's great to have as much information as possible. And the first prize in this category goes to a wonderful rediscovery of a piece published by the American Composers Alliance, a piece that was written the year the American Composers Alliance was founded, 1937. But there's finally a definitive edition out there of the Sonatine for viola and piano by another great African-American composer, Ulysses Kay. And the note setter for that was Eugene McBride. Once again, the production coordinator is ACA's Gina Genova. Now, for solos without accompaniment, this is every instrument except for keyboards or guitars. So it could be a solo clarinet solo. It could be a solo trombone piece. You know, I wonder, we didn't have any submissions in that category. I wonder accordion would be an interesting one. Would that fall under keyboard or would that fall under solos without accompaniment? An interesting thing to debate in future meetings we have. Okay, on to the award winners. Once again, a work from Subito Music Corporation wins second prize, Principal Brothers No. 3. This is a solo clarinet piece by James Lee III. Once again, the composer did his own note setting. So the note setter, James Lee III, and the production coordinator is David Murray again. First prize goes to the late Panamanian American composer Roque Cordero's Rhapsodia Panamania, which is a solo violin work. And he's no longer with us. So this is once again a new edition of a work that hopefully will now become canonical with violinists all over the place, because now there's a great performing edition of it from Peer Music Classical. Note setter Mark Brooks, production coordinator Karen Heyman. Next category, which is the most competitive of all of the categories in this year's awards, and traditionally other years as well, chamber music note setting. And while you could say solos with accompaniment, violin and piano is chamber music too, we have taken the definition as a way to kind of reduce the weight in this category to say that chamber music has to be at least 3 people. And still, even with that proviso that it has to be 3 or more, it's still the most heavily loaded category, so much so that we have 5 winners this time. So we have several ties, and we should go to the first of those ties. Tied for third prize, published by G. Schirmer Associated Music Publishers, which is Wise Music Classical. It is Clearwater Rhapsody for piano trio and erhu, which is the wonderful arm-held bowed stringed instrument from China. Clearwater Rhapsody for piano, violin, cello, and erhu by Bright Sheng, the note setter Dejan Bajnar, and the production coordinator David Featheroff. Also tied for third prize, another G. Schirmer Associated Music Publishers score by Andrei Previn, the Quintet for Horn and String Quartet, once again, a posthumous edition. Andrei Previn is no longer with us in the corporeal world, but his music still will be. And, you know, he famously said to me that he didn't care if his music was played after he died. He only cared about his music being played while he was alive so he could hear it. But we all care that his music continues to be played. So it's wonderful that there is a great performing edition now of his quintet for horn and string quartet, note setter Anthony Cornicello, and production coordinator Peter Stanley Martin. Second prize, Schirmer is just cleaning house with this. Or I should say, Wise Music is cleaning house with this. Schirmer Associated Music Publishers, the publisher of Florence Price, the great African-American female composer, the first Black woman to have a symphony performed ever, back in the 1930s. And this is not for one of her symphonies. It is for her string quartet, 5 folk songs in counterpoint, note setter Peter Simcich, and the production coordinator Peter Stanley Martin. First prize, again, is a tie. One of the first prize winners goes to The Year 2020, a wind quintet by Jose Sarabria, published by Peer Music Classical. Note setter again, Marina Voishkin, and production coordinator Karen Heyman. And I should say in these ties, we're presenting them because you have to do things linearly, but they're tied. It means they're tied. So the 2 tied pieces, we're not saying one is better than the other. They're tied. There should be probably a 3-dimensional internet invented so that we could show the ties together somehow. The other tied winning work, Physical Property, a great work by Steve Mackey for electric guitar and string quartet, which for years was not available as a sale item. And finally, there's an edition of this important piece that Steve Mackey premiered with the Kronos Quartet many years ago, Physical Property. The note setter, Kyle Tiemann-Strauss, who is also the production coordinator. I should say that Boosey and Hawkes this year only submitted 2 pieces in these awards, and both of them won. So when I first saw that they only submitted 2, it's like, why don't they submit more music? But both won. So what can I say? Finally, in the last of the note setting categories, collated music. This is for music where you get a complete set of parts with the score. This is typically wind band music, although some educational works for string orchestra are produced this way and some orchestra pieces are done this way. But it's traditionally a category for wind band music. And we have our winners this year, only one is a wind band piece, I should point out, even though this is traditionally a band category. But the first of these prizes is for a sinfonietta work by the recently deceased Martin Boykin, a very important composer and teacher for many years at Brandeis University, who was with us almost made it to 90, has been a fixture in the Northeast music scene for decades. And this is for his concerto for 13 players. The note setter is Will Rowe, the production coordinator, Gina Genova. This is yet another publication from the American Composers Alliance. I said earlier that this is the first time they've won, but they've gotten 3 awards this time. So this is really fantastic day for ACA. Second prize, a piece that I want to do a particular shout out to, Stay on It, a 1971 piece by Julius Eastman. And if anybody knows the Julius Eastman story, it's a tragic story. He died several decades ago, homeless. He was destitute. He had drug addiction problems. He had AIDS. He was a great composer, and we ran the risk of losing all of his music. It took years to find a lot of the manuscripts, and a lot of them are in variable condition. And also, he was a great experimenter, and this music is very challenging for note setters. So I want to make a special point and a special bravo to Anthony Cornicello, to Peter Stanley Martin, the production coordinator, and to G. Schirmer Music Sales for putting this music out into the world. There's a lot of unconventional notation, a lot of indeterminate stuff, a lot of improvisatory stuff. Julius Eastman, an African-American who is influenced by the jazz tradition as well as by John Cage in the experimental tradition and the minimalists. It all sort of comes together in this piece, Stay on It, which even has sort of an R&B element. everybody gets different scores based on the range of their instruments in this edition. So you see pictured here C instruments. There's a different one for B flat instruments, for E flat instruments, and they all get their own part, and it all sort of fits together somehow magically. And there are no page numbers in this either, as per Julius Eastman's wishes. And finally, first prize to a bona fide work for wind band, Ars Vitae by Larry Clark, a long-term wind band music composer known throughout that community, published by Excelsior Music Publishing, the note setter Tyler Arcari, who is also the production coordinator. Finally, our 2 awards for cover design and our book design awards. An award, third prize, for a new music shelf for the Song Slam Songbook, Volume 1, a collection of a bunch of different composers, cover design and production coordinator by Dennis Tobensky, who meticulously has learned the program Dorico and has done all of these note setting jobs that which keep winning awards with us this year in Dorico. So it has paid off. Second prize is a tie, Wingert Jones Publications, Flexible Favorites for Weddings, arranged by Joe Snyder, cover design Kristen Cutler, and production coordinator Joe Snyder, who is also the arranger. A tie for second prize, also Wingert Jones Publication, Flexible Favorites for Strings Weddings, arranged by Joe Snyder, cover design Kristen Cutler, production coordinator Joe Snyder. First prize in cover design to Hal Leonard for Jazz Duets, Etudes for Phrasing and Articulation by Richard Lowell. Charlie Jarvis, cover design Kristen Anhalt, production coordinator Jonathan Feist, published by Hal Leonard, Berkeley Press series. And overall book design award. Third prize goes to Carl Fisher Music, Stanley Kubrick for intermediate piano. No, these are not compositions by Stanley Kubrick, but rather music that appeared in his many films. So I assume, I have not seen this collection. It says there is music from 2001, A Space Odyssey, A Clockwork Orange, and Barry Lyndon. So I assume there's some Georgi Ligeti in there, maybe some Wendy Carlos, maybe some Beethoven or Clockwork Orange. I don't really know. I'll have to check it out. These are arrangements by Nicholas Hopkins, cover design by Andrew Doughty, production coordinator Lauren Taylor, published by Carl Fisher Music. Second prize, an edition that already won an award today, wins another award, Nights Transfigured, 15 21st Century Solos for Guitar. The book design by Simon Barry, cover design Simon Barry and Aaron Largett Kaplan, production coordinator Gina Genova for American Composers Alliance. And finally, our last award of the day, a really, really spectacular volume, The Complete Scores of Charlie Parker, Hal Leonard edition. You can, it's, you know, we always have the table when we used to meet corporeally, and people could pore over these scores and see the work that's put into them. But you can even see from this photo the detail, the cardboard cover that protects this volume, that's really bound well. Book and cover design Linda Nelson, production coordinator Jeff Schoenfeld, Hal Leonard publication, really, really vital repertoire, all in one place in one volume, The Complete Scores of Charlie Parker. And that concludes this year's Paul Revere Awards. Thank you.
Frank, thank you so much for joining us again and for presenting the awards. And this is the end of our meeting. Normally we'd have a nice cocktail hour. We'd all get to hang out, but hopefully next year, or maybe even before June rolls around, we'll be able to do something all together. So thank you to all of our participants, all of our panelists, all of our viewers out there for being with us today, especially at the end of what I know is a very busy week. Robert?
Yes, thank you, Britton, and thank you, Frank. Congratulations to all the award winners. We wish all of you a very safe and restful, productive summer, and we'll see you back in September. Also, just to let you know, members are encouraged to attend our board meetings. They are open, and Britton can give you information about that. And we look forward to seeing you back next year. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful summer.
Bye, everybody.